we continue with the prophecy towards the Moavites. We're in the midst of the sort of the second part of the book of Yeshaya, where Yeshaya is kind of like in the words of Yirmiyah. The words that are told to Yirmiyahu, Navi lagoyim netaticha. You're not just a prophet to the Jews, you're also a prophet to the nations. And so chapter 16, Shilchu kar moshel eretz misela midbara el har bat Zion. Dispatch a messenger, ruler of the land, from Selah to Har Zion. Send a message. Okay, and there are those who say that this has to do with Misha, who was the king of Moab, who was a shepherd, a sheepman. He would pay tribute to Israel, but he stopped at the time after the death of Achav. He stopped because he no longer felt that he was that he needed to send sheep. He didn't feel that the Israelites were in charge of him. So it's going back to that time. Continuing in verse 2, V'haya ka'ofen odeid kain mishulach, like fugitive birds, like nestlings driven away. Tiena benot Moab ma'abrot la'arnon. Moab's villagers linger by the fords of Arnon, right? They're driven out. They're young birds. They're no longer in their nest. The villages of Moab will be empty. Hey, vi etza asu flila shiti kalil tilech betoch tzarayim sitrini dachim nodeid al tigali. Give advice, offer counsel. At noon, make your shadow like night. Conceal the outcasts. Betray not the fugitives. So, right, this is part of the question here where we had sort of yesterday, the whole question of how is the response of the Israelites going to be to the Moabites, their former enemies, right? Are they going to betray the fugitives? Are they not going to? How are they going to feel about them, right? Are you going to protect them? Are you going to give them over to the Bavel? Are you going to give them over to the enemies? The same way that perhaps you were given over to the enemies. Yaguru vach nidachai Moab, havi seiter lamo. Right? Let Moab's outcasts find asylum in you. Let them find seiter. Let them find hiding. Mipnei shodein. Kiafes hametz kala shod. Tamu romes min haaretz. Be a shelter for them against their enemies. For violence has vanished and marauders have perished from this land. Right? Help them out. Help out those who are running away. Now, you should know here in this verse, I was explaining as referring to the Moabites, because that's what seemingly we're talking about. There are those who say that, no, this is, Rashi and others say that this has actually gone back, because in the end of yesterday's chapter, it talked about the She'irit HaPleita, sort of the remnants, those who survived. And so Rashi and others say that this is referring to the Israelites, that they're going to be Israelites who are refugees, and you should show them help. You should help them. You should assist them. But it seems more likely that it's referring to the Moabites and asking us to provide shelters to the Moabites, because their enemies perhaps are gone, and now we have a chance to assist them. We're in verse 5. V'uchan b'chesed kisei v'yashavta alav be'emet ba'ohel David shofet v'doresh mishpat u'mahar tzedek. And the throne shall be established in goodness in the house, in the tent of David. And on it shall sit with faith a ruler devoted to justice and zealous for righteousness, right? And so there are those who explain that if the Israelites are good to the Moabites, then that's going to establish that they have a kingdom which is one of kindness, a kingdom of empathy, a kingdom of care, and therefore the throne is going to be established in goodness and kindness in a good way. There are those who say that this is talking about Chizkiyahu, who establishes his throne through his kindness to God, through his love of the Jewish people, through his faith to God, and not being worried about Sancherev. But so there are a couple of different ways to try to sort of to understand it. I'm going to continue going with the way from the earlier verse that we're being told to to help the refugees of Moab, and that's going to make our kingdom a place of justice, of mercy, of equity, of fairness. Now, at the same time you do that, nevertheless, Shamanu Gaon Moab Gay Moab. We've heard Moab's pride. We've heard how haughty he is. Ga'avato uge'ono ve'evrato lo chen badav. His pride, his haughtiness, his arrogance. Right? We've heard all about it, all about how great they think they are. Right? That's what they think they're so great. They think that's many people. It's not just the Moabites who think they're so great, but that's not the way it's going to be. His lochein badav, his branches will not be so, right? They're going to be destroyed. Lachein yeyelil Moab leMoab kulo yeyelil laashishe kir chareset tegu ach nichaim. Moab is going to scream. They're going to scream because they want their food from Kir Chareshet. The Ashishe are sort of like some sort of raisin concoction, and they're going to moan. They're going to groan. They're going to be crying out for themselves. They see that their city is destroyed. They see that everything is broken. That's what they understand is going to happen. They're right. This is continuing with the complete destruction, and maybe the Israelites can help them a little bit by showing them some mercy, even though they were very, very haughty. And of course, that's one of the themes we keep repeating over and over again. Those who are arrogant, those who are haughty, moving up. No. Yeshaya is saying kingdoms rise and kingdoms fall. They may be on top today. They're going to be on tomorrow. They're going to be on the bottom. Don't trust them. Only trust in God. Continuing in verse 8. Ki shadmot cheshbon umlal gefen shivma ba'alei goyim halumu siro keha ad ya'azer nagu ta'u midbar shlucheha nitshu avruyam. The vineyards of Cheshbon are withered. The vines of Sivma, their tendrils spread to Baal Goyim and reach Azer and all the way to the desert. Their shoots spread out and cross the sea. Right, all of their vine trees, they're languishing. They're dead. They're destroyed. They are no longer. They've been broken down. They've been destroyed. This was perhaps something that they had a lot of vineyards and a lot of very good trees and saplings, and now it's been all destroyed. Al Kain, Evche bivchi ya'azer gefen sivma ara yavech dimati cheshbon ve'elalei ki al ketzech ve'al ketzirech hedad nafal. And therefore I will cry for you, Ya'ezer. Who's crying? Is it God's crying? Is it Yirmiyah who's crying? Right? It could be either one. It could be understood as being both. But it's right. It's interesting here again. We're showing some empathy. We're showing some sympathy. We care about these people. I'll weep for your vines, Cheshbon. I'll drench you with my tears. Ended are the shouts over your fig and grain harvest. This is these words. Ve'al kitzirech, hedad nafal. This is the idea that ended are their shouts, and there are different commentaries try to understand what are their shouts. So Rashi says it's referring to, it was the shouts of the robbers and the spoilers that's not around anymore. Others say that it's the sound of the wine press. This is referring to their vines, and there was the sound that the wine press made, like when Lucy was jumping on the grapes back in France in that episode everybody knows. So right, so the sound of the wine press is not there anymore, and therefore that's why it's gone. There's an interesting comment the Malbim makes, where the Malbim talks about that it's related. Hedad is related to the word for an echo in Hebrew, and that following the preparation, the harvesting of the grapes and putting it into the wine press, they would be joy. Everybody would gather together, and there would be singing and joy and dancing. And so he says that that sound, that rejoicing, would echo off the mountains. And now that's what it's referring to. That echo that would come back and forth from all these people singing is gone. So different ways of understanding, but it's all demonstrating that Moab has been destroyed, that Maybe they were it was like Sonoma or wherever was the wine capital of the Middle East, and now it's gone. Continuing verse 10, Vin Asaf Simcha Vagil Min HaKarmel Uvikramim Lo Yerunan Lo Yeroah Yayin Biyakavim Lo Yidroch Hadorech Heydad Hishavti. Rejoice and gladness are gone from the farmland. In the vineyards there is no shouting. Again, this idea, there's no joy, there's no rina. No more does the treader tread wine in the presses. The shouts have been silenced. Again, the heydad, the shouts, whichever shouts they're supposed to be, the sound of the wine press again, or the sound of the rejoicing, they are gone. And therefore, al kain me'ai lemoav kakinor yehemu v'kirbi lekir chares. Therefore, my kinor, my lyre, my heart mourns for Moab, and my soul for this place of Kir Chares. Right? This is a right question here. Who is saying this? Is this the Moabites who are saying this? Is it the Navi who's saying this? Is it God who's saying this? Different ways of trying to understand this verse. Who is the one who is so saddened, who's so upset by the destruction of Moab? And you could take it whichever way you want. V'haya chi nir'ah ki nal'a Moab al haba uva mikdasho litpalel v'lo yuchal. When it becomes apparent and clear that Moab has gained nothing, right? They've gone to try to pray in their temples. We talked about this in the last chapter. Talked about them going up to their mountains and going up to their temples and it not working, right? But it's not going to work. That also is not going to help them. They're going to try to go up to their temples, and nothing is going to help them prevail against their enemies. Zehadavar asher diber Adonai al Moav me'az. This is what God had spoken to Moab long ago, and this is a very strange phrase that says that the me'az. What does it mean, me'az? That God had spoken to Moab from a long time ago that this would happen. Yeshaya's last prophecy, at least the way he said it, we said maybe it refers to the Assyrians, according to some, but it's about the Babylonians deep into the future. And here too, the Moabites. Moab is not going to be destroyed right now. So what is he referring to that it says me'az? And so there, Rashi says that this was a prophecy that was given a long, long time ago, and it goes all the way back to when the king Balak hired Bilam. That's what he is referring to. There's an interesting theory given by professor, sort of academic, religious professor in Israel, I think Kaufman, who said that if you look here, and I think it's the 48th chapter of the book of Yirmiyah, are very same. They have similar prophecies, the two of them. And what they say is there's a very important archaeological discovery that was found in what was formerly the territory of Moab in Jordan, which it's called the Misha Stela, and it's a limestone which was etched into it, and it talks about the prophecies, the great things that were going to happen to his kingdom and how they're going to be supreme. And so he says that there was an earlier prophecy before Yirmiyahu, before Yeshaya, given by a prophet, we don't know who, that responded to this prophecy that was given in this archaeological find. This prophecy, I think it's in the Louvre today, was given, and it's talked about Moab's supremacy, etc., etc. And much like these chapters are all about, no, you're not supreme. God is supreme. And so it's an interesting sort of theory why it says me'az. Why is it something from long ago? Yeshaya, it wasn't long ago. So Rashi sort of biblically, no, goes all the way back to Bilam and Balak. How could Balak hire Bilam to try to curse the Jewish people? So it's referring all the way back. Or no, maybe it's referring to this archaeological find from Misha, who was the king at the time of Achav, and after Achav's death, stopped paying tribute to the Israelite kingdom. Continuing verse 14, V'ata daber Adonai le'mor b'shalosh shanim kishnei sachir v'niklek kvod Moab b'chol ha'amon harav u'sha'ar ma'at mizar lo kabir. Now God has spoken in 3 years, like the time of a hired labor, only 3 years. Moab's population, with all of its huge people, with its large population, it shall shrink, and only a remnant shall be left. And that remnant, lo kabir. They won't be of consequences. They won't be important. They won't be significant. And so the Moabites, who in many ways were the enemies of Israel, and could have perhaps at many times throughout history could have come to the help of their cousins, the Israelites, are being told that they are going to be destroyed. They're going to be taken care of. They're too haughty. They're too arrogant. And arrogance is met by Yeshaya with destruction, because everybody else is going down. There's only one Almighty who is on high.